All right. I think we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second day of coverage of the Maunaloa eruption. We are joined again by Mayor Mitch Roth and the Civil Defense Administrator, Talmadge Magno, and the scientist in charge of USGS, HVO, Ken On. Appreciate you gentlemen taking the time to join us today.
Pleasure.
All right, we have a couple questions for you guys that we've been seeing online and been getting our phones basically blown up by people asking us. So we figured we'd ask you guys. Start out with a little bit about the lava flow itself. What's the current situation with the eruption and the lava flow coming off the Northeast Rift Zone?
Well, right now we've got one major lava flow coming down. As we know that on Monday morning, 3 fissures opened up below the caldera on the Northeast Rift Zone. That third fissure is the one that remained active on Monday afternoon. The first 2 stopped, and then last night a 4th fissure opened up. The third fissure is just above a place called Dewey Cone that's up a little bit above 10,000 feet. 4th fissure kind of extends a short distance below that. This morning, the fountains at the 3rd fissure were reaching up to 100 feet in the air, and the 4th fissure was pretty low fountaining, 5 to 10 feet, and very low volume flows that were just kind of peeking over the ridge to the north. The main flow comes down and has moved down and crossed the Maunaloa Observatory last night, the Maunaloa Observatory Road last night, and is now approaching the dirt Hilo to Kona Road. It's about 500 meters above that road at this point. And we just got a fix on it just about a half an hour ago. That is moving slowly on the order of a quarter mile every 4 hours or something like that. So it's getting down onto the flatter terrain at the base of the Northeast Rift Zone. So things are really slowing down and it's spreading out and kind of flattening out. So that's kind of the status of where we are right now.
All right. I have a question for the mayor here. We had you on yesterday and we were talking a little bit about visitors coming to the island and trying to view the lava. And since then, we've seen Department of Transportation put out a release saying advising against the people parking on the side of the road on the saddle. So what's the situation with viewing the lava flow?
So yeah, we are also recommending people not park on the side of the road. It is a highway. There are safety issues. We have a lot of people that are driving too fast on that road as it is. So we are working with the state to arrange some places where people can view, where they can park. We're looking at possibly using a shuttle. Unfortunately, the county, other than Gillicuddy Park, we have no land up there. So we're looking at using Gillicuddy Park as a staging ground. But we're working with the state, and it's not just one state agency. There's several state agencies that we're trying to get buy-in for. We're almost there. So hopefully we can get the buy-in from the state, and then we'll be able to have at least a continuous shuttle from Gilbert-Kelly Park so people can go and we can take them to a place where they can drop them off, get them on the bus, get them off the bus. That's what we're working on right now.
Right. Bill, you want to ask one?
Yeah, so one of the questions that we've had is from people on parts of the island that were initially thought to be under more direct threat, Kona side, Kau side, that are not quite clear because if they're still at risk. And this is because from whatever angle they're at on the island, they can still look up and see the eruption on a skyline, and there's some confusion that it seems exactly how far that is and how it relates to them, but can we definitively say for people in Kau and Kona that they're in the clear?
Yes.
that was pretty good.
One word answer. No, I mean, we historically have these eruptions. They start at the summit and they'll go into one rift zone or the other. They don't go into both rift zones. They don't jump between the rift zones. So it's not like it'll finish erupting on the Northeast Rift Zone and then immediately go over to the Southwest Rift Zone. The next eruption of Maunaloa, I mean, who knows how long it will take between this one and the next one, but could very well be on the Southwest Rift Zone again. And I know people, originally saw those lava flows that were coming out of the southern end of the caldera. And I have to, make a distinction here between Makuaweoweo caldera and the summit of Maunaloa. The summit feature is much bigger. There's an older outer caldera ring fault, and all the collapsed pit craters in there lie within this bigger caldera feature. So when we talk about the summit, we talk about that. And there was a fissure that extended out of the caldera, but still within the bigger structure. And that was what put out those lava flows that people could see. And people, during the initial stages thought lava was coming towards them. And it was still contained as part of the summit eruption by how we define these eruptions. Yeah, so.
And, that goes back to the last question you just asked about where you can go to view it. You don't have to go far. I mean, you could be in Hilo. We see it from the airport in Hilo. You can see it almost any place on this island. You can see, the volcano and what's going on there. And so there's really not that big need to have to get up there close to the lava to see it. You can see it everywhere.
Yeah, I could see it looking up at Fissure 8 last night. I could see it over the the old cone. It's like I'm glad that it glows a lot further this time.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest places to see it right now, believe it or not, is actually at Volcano National Park. And the reason I say that is because you can see something that most people have never seen in their lives. Most scientists have never seen in their life. And that is, you can see the glow from Halemaumau and the glow from Maunaloa at the same time. Two separate volcano incidents happening at the same time. That's a pretty cool thing. I'm guessing, you guys have been around. You've never seen that in your life. I mean, that's to me one of the cool things about what we have right here.
Yeah. Last time that happened was 84, and that's not our time period right there. But next question I have for you is about we were talking about that northeast rift zone and the emergence of Fissure 4. And that brings up a question that we've also been hearing is what's the likelihood of this thing continuing to propagate down the rift zone? Have you seen any evidence of that might suggest one way or another?
We've been looking for, the formation of cracks or any fuming out in front. Haven't seen it, but that really doesn't mean much. We're still in the very early stages of one of these big Maunaloa eruptions, right? So I don't consider that vent configuration necessarily to be stable at this point. It's very possible that it could propagate down and open up one or two more fissures down below where it is, so it just depends. There have been eruptions at the level that this eruption has stopped at right now. So it could continue from that level, or, those fissures could continue to propagate downrift.
All right. My next question, unless Philip wants to jump in and take this opportunity, is about mapping. So we've seen that the county is now doing some mapping alongside of USGS. I'm going to drop the link in the chat for the civil defense map that's being updated. I believe maybe Talmadge can comment on the map progress and the efforts the county's making to share that information. But question is more about being able to better see the flow and the shape of the flow, things along those lines, thinking to the mapping efforts of 2018 and the being able to map the perimeter of the flow. Is there any efforts along those lines going forward?
Well, yeah, that's what we spend a lot of effort at. And the map that you see on civil defense reflects a close partnership between USGS and Hawaiʻi County to produce that. We're giving them the line work and they're putting it on the interactive map so it's available to the public. So the idea is to get our stuff out in the fastest, most usable way. We're also continuing to publish the regular kind of pictorial downloadable maps on our website as well. So this particular eruption is problematic because the wind is coming from the south instead of from the northeast in normal trade winds. If it was coming from the northeast, then the entire lava flow would be clear. But right now, what's happening is it's coming from the south. And so the fume from those fissures is covering that. So we can't fly a helicopter over vast swaths of it. The map that you see on there reflects locations that were done from, I don't know how to put it. I was told not to put it in a certain way, but they're from national security assets available to a small number of people. And that's where we were able to do the outline of the map that is up there right now. The helicopter mapping has not been particularly successful because we can only get partial maps. So if we do have a shift in the winds, that will make the mapping much, much easier. And as the flow moves further away, like we'll be able to get better fixes on the mapping. So we're working in a slightly different way than we did in 2018, and we have different conditions than in 2018. So it's, you know,
Right.
we are concerned and we want to get those maps out, but they're not the easiest things to make at this point.
And Dave, if I can just jump in, you know, we every night we get these things. It's coming down to Wood Valley. It's coming down to Kona. It's, you know, so people see things, and you know, we actually have had eyes, and do have eyes. There's cameras out there that can tell us certain things. Maybe not to the degree of maps, but you know, we've also had planes and you know, different helicopters up there pretty much every day, looking at what things are happening. So we tell you that this is where it's at. We've actually had verification that everything that USGS has told us has been pretty much on the money. And I think you guys, you know, you see that as well.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. I think there's only a handful of people on this island that really know that mountain. And so it's deceptive because it really is just a round shape without a lot of really clear landmarks on it. So people get lost on it. It's like being lost at sea. And so we have people that have spent a lot of their life up on that mountain. And so we use those people's judgment to know where things are, how things are coming, what they're likely to do, you know. So we have that advantage, and that's, you know, we try to share that knowledge with the public. So there's a lot of optical illusions that can happen looking up at Maunaloa.
It's a really big mountain. So hard to get a sense of bearing on it when you're looking at like aerial photography, where in 2018 it's like, oh, that's this street, right?
Right,
There's no
yeah.
delineations up there like that, you know, to be able to gauge.
No, it is deceptively huge. It's like being in the Arctic in the tundra where there's no trees, and you think a mountain range is little or big or whatever, and then you don't have any scale. And so it's really, really hard to know where things are, what distances are, estimate how far something is away. You know, that's a really difficult thing for the average person to do.
You know, I think just kind of commenting on that, Ken and I went up in that C-130 the other day. And what really impressed me is that you're in a plane and you're flying, and it's taking you a long time to get to places where this is like, it's not that far, but it is deceptive.
It's in a big plane that moves pretty doggone fast too. We're moving at 250 miles an hour, and it took a long time to get up there. So
Yeah, and the weather hasn't been accommodating either, from what I've been gleaning from people that are trying to make flights, lots of scrub flights and things along those lines.
yeah, so it's hard. That's what's been holding back our mapping crews and the ability to get in the field. We've been able to get a certain amount of data, but you know, it's not ideal. Like if you think of 2018, mostly in trade winds, the fissures were being blown downwind. The lava flow was on the upwind side of the fissures, you know, and it was relatively short helicopter flights to be able to, you know, keep maintaining that. So we'll get a handle on it here and be able to do it, but it's just, you know, right out of the box, it's taken a little bit of effort. The maps take a surprising more effort than you think, and that lava flow is a surprisingly lot bigger than you think it is as well.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, if I could just follow up on that, is it fair, Ken, to say that any measurements of volume or fusion rate or that kind of thing are also difficult because of that mapping challenge?
Yes, our best estimates is it's somewhere in the ballpark of the 2018 diffusion rates, you know, on Kilauea, just on somewhat steeper slopes, and then the channels have broken up into multiple channels. So it's kind of had a braided channel effect. They're not truly braided, There are separate flows that have come and touched, and a couple of them have fused together, but some of them are still independent channels. So it's more complex than the 2018 flow was by a long ways.
Okay, yeah, thanks. And then if you don't mind, if I follow up from that and ask Talmadge, and I'm sure that that actually affects the planning you have to do as far as how fast that flow might advance. And we've talked about the inundation zones for a while, and now it seems like the flow is mostly in one inundation zone where you could shift preparation or focus it a little better. Could you comment on that, Talmadge?
Right, we work closely with HVO as far as any modeling, any data that they can give us, and it goes into all of the planning that we are doing, and looking at this current situation and the infrastructure that is being threatened. Putting all that information into our decision making and tasking all of our partners and the county departments to come up with what's their operations going to be if certain infrastructure is taken out.
Can we say specifically, like the Saddle Road seems like the most likely thing to be impacted first? Can you comment on preparations for if the Saddle Road were to be impacted and thoughts along those lines?
Right, we confirm with state highways that Highway 19 is fully operational. All the bridges have been repaired, so we still have 3 intact routes around the island. If DKI is taken out, we're down to 2, but the other routes around the island, it's kind of back to the old system where you got the coastal routes. But the departments are working on what their alternatives are, going back to that system.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say that, this is a big eruption. These are not easily predictable. It's very early in the eruption. If you shifted that vent site by 1 kilometer downrift, those lava flows would never touch the Saddle Road till well on their way to Hilo. And we have no idea if they will actually head down to Hilo, if they'll make it how far, I mean, it's again one of those things you just don't want to get ahead of what is happening on the ground, right? So when we think it's getting close to Saddle Road, we'll certainly be giving time to civil defense to make sure that there's adequate time to close the road down and let everyone know, and so people can plan and do it. Right now, the thing could die tonight and we could have a new flow coming down, but we're not, a lot of people are thinking, oh, it'll be here by the morning. No, it's not going to be at the Saddle Road by the morning. So it's still got a long way to get across that flat area.
And unfortunately, our crystal ball's in the shop.
Yeah.
Somebody dropped.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, the flow is not going to sneak up on Saddle Road. It'll be a slow encroachment upon it, and everybody will see it coming, type of thing. It'd be well
it's
prepared.
Hard up there in the saddle. There's not really many trees to hide the lava flow behind or anything. So,
which is a good thing.
Yeah. So no, it's not going to sneak up on us, and it's it was moving, like I said, this afternoon right at the base of the slope before it got to the Hilo Kona Road. Our measurements today are just about a quarter mile every 4 hours. So a mile every 15, 16 hours. It's a good 4 miles at least from the road, maybe a little further than that. So, if you want to do a math, but things could change. It could surge, it could slow down. It could change form and be Hawaiʻi flow. It could spread more. It could collect itself into a channel. There's any number of different things that could happen that would change those velocities. So, trying to, make a guess on what it did on the steep slope and what it's going to do on the flat slope, it's, we'll get down there and we'll measure it when it gets down on the flats, and, then we'll be able to provide some better velocities, and especially when we see how much it's going to spread out.
All right.
Yeah, and your point about the vent not being stable yet, as you said earlier, not considered to be stable, that certainly makes everything very dynamic. But certainly there are people who are in that Kaumana area of Hilo who see that that's their inundation zone, and maybe they're thinking, okay, well, I should start preparing something. Could you comment briefly? What I'm hearing is it's probably too soon to commit fully, right? But of course, we're urging preparedness at all times.
I think that's the message we've been giving is everybody on the island, because we are exposed to so many different kinds of natural disasters that we should always be prepared. And each one of these things gives us an opportunity to think about that. And what is really the most valuable to me? What do I need to operate if I had to leave my house? You know, how can I contact my family? And, all those kind of things are just important questions that everybody should be thinking about and having some answers to all the time. So, the probability of it getting into Kaumana is pretty low, right? There's only been 2 historical flows of all the flows that have come down the Northeast Rift Zone that have made it in there. One of them was a year-long eruption, very different than what we're seeing right now. Not that this couldn't change and do that, but that there was only one eruption like that too. So we're dealing with really small probabilities at this point.
But that being said, I think most people are probably watching you guys because they want to be educated about what's going on. So education is great. We recommend that people go to the Civil Defense website, which has links to USGS. If you go to that volcano hazard site, it will tell you, some stuff on preparedness. It has some webcams where people can look and see, what's happening if it's coming down different slopes. And one of the things that on that website is the USGS maps that tell you about the different flows and different amount of hours or time it takes to get from one place to another. I think right now, unless things have changed today, the map that you probably want to be looking at is the 1935, 1936 flow. That's kind of the direction that's been heading in.
This flow is coming down kind of on top of that and is likely to take the same direction when it comes down to the Saddle Road. And that's most people aren't, I don't expect most people to know, oh, that's the 1935 flow. I realize not everyone has the same interest in life that I do. But that's the flow that is right up around the Mauna Kea turnoff. That's the big flat Hawaiʻi flow in there. So, and the road pretty much, once it finishes the steep climb up into the saddle before Pu'uhuluhulu, the road is pretty much following along the 1935 flow. We're very close by to it.
Looks like it's about 6.5 miles. It stayed on that road. What is the Saddle Road now, at least?
Yeah.
So, and so those aren't guesses. I mean, there's lines that USGS uses. And so if people want to know why are you thinking it's that, well, this is where it's gone before and it's likely to follow that.
Yeah, and we have the drainage maps for the topography that led to the building of the inundation zones. We've been running mathematical models as well already for these things that take into account the flow viscosity and some other parameters and the slope and the topography. So they pull all that in, but they don't take into everything. And so we're not publishing those because they're not really accurate. You have to be thinking that there's a lot of other parameters that can vary here. And, these things could mislead you and make you think that something's going to happen that doesn't end up happening. So while we've done it, there's still a lot of usefulness in just going out and measuring how fast those flows are moving and seeing what direction they're moving in, is really ultimately the ground truth of the whole matter.
All right. I'm just checking up on see if we got any questions. Looks like it. I think I am out of questions though. Phil, do you have any more? Try and wrap up since their video seems to be frozen.
Yeah, I'm good. I think we really appreciate your time, Mayor Roth and Dr. Ken Han and Talmadge Magno. I'm not sure if they can see us or hear us anymore. It looks like their screen has gone blank here, but we do appreciate their time. Anything else, Dane, before we wrap it up here?
No, we really appreciate their time on this one and stepping out and, into a environment that you don't normally see, the head of USGS and all this, collaboration going on in public view. So I think that's great for things like transparency and just trying to get better information out there as well, right? We've seen a lot of speculation online, and it's, we're trying to get the real note and the real information out there. So this is a great step in that direction. Apologies for the way this is the second stream in a row where it gets ended by technical difficulties. The technical difficulties just decide, yep, you're done with questions at this point, and it's been about right at that time. So that's one way to sign it off. Appreciate them again. And yeah, we will be posting a little bit more throughout the evening on Hawaii Tracker and hawaiitracker.com.
Yeah, he's Dan DuPont. I'm Philip Ong. Aloha, everybody.